Hey everybody, my name is Rita Ricks. I want to welcome you to Speaking to Your Spirit. Thank you so much for tuning in. My guest today is one of my favorites. Her name is Karen Jefferson, Dr. Karen Jefferson. She is my GYN and she delivered my granddaughter. So she's also OB and she's also my friend. And I'm very grateful that she's chosen to be with us today because it's a very interesting story that she has that I'm sure many of you can relate to. So I'm going to ask Karen to just kind of go back to how she even chose as an African American woman.
Sure.
How did you choose? How did you decide to become a doctor? And just tell us a little bit, what did that require?
Absolutely. So first of all, Rita, thank you very much for having me as a guest.
Absolutely.
I am honored, and I know these are all powerhouse men and women who are listening to this, and so whatever contribution I can make, again, I am absolutely humbly honored. As far as deciding on medicine, my mom was a NICU nurse, and we lived in Brooklyn, New York, and my mom had us living in a building that had all the medical professionals, so we had everyone that worked in the hospital in this building, and I just thought these were superheroes. I just heard the amazing things that they were doing, and my mom would come home and tell me about these little itty bitty babies that just barely made it outside their moms and were able to flourish with their assistance, and I just knew I wanted to be a part of this. I wanted to be one of those.
Were there doctors in the building as well?
Yes, there were doctors, nurses, anyone that worked across the street with Brookdale Hospital.
Okay.
And so just talking to the doctors and hearing their stories, knowing what my mom was doing, I kind of knew that's it. That's what I want to do. I want to do medicine. I had a couple little obstacles, one of which was I did not like blood. So don't ever let anything deter you from your goals. But I had a brilliant guidance counselor who said, well, if you don't like blood, why don't you go ahead and try working for a dentist? Because you'll get a little blood, but not too much. And that I did from my junior year in high school. I worked for a wonderful dentist in Long Island.
Yes.
And got exposed to a little blood. I didn't faint. And everything really confirmed this is me. I'm good. This is what I want to do. And so I did have a lot of naysayers who were like, oh my goodness, do you know how much school that is? I mean, a lot of people. I was like, I want to be a doctor. And they're like, that's 8 years. That's 12 years. I mean, obviously they didn't mean to be negative Nellies, but they wanted reality check and that it was going to take a lot of sacrifice. But I really felt like this is where I wanted to make a difference. When I started, my mentor, Dr. Miller, she was my mom's really good friend, and she was a pediatrician. And so I loved kids, so I just knew I was going to be a pediatrician. Went through med school, and really I just knew, hey, you know what? Can't do the party, got to go ahead and be in the library, do what you have to do, but the sacrifice was worth it. And
did you have that discipline in high school, or did it start when you went into medical school?
I did. I will definitely say from a very early age, education was extremely important, more so than sports or anything. I did play badminton in high school. My husband's a big football player, so he says not to tell too many people about my badminton team.
I didn't know that.
But I'm very proud of it.
Good.
And I still love my racquetball sports. So I love tennis. But you just know it's sacrifice, but you're still living, okay? And so a lot of times when people talk to you, it makes it sound like you're going to be in the dungeon for 12 years, but you're still living, you're still making friendships, and especially if you get a group of motivated friends, you encourage each other. You lift each other up, and I think that's very important.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. When you are around people who are as motivated or more than you, it helps a lot.
Yes. So, as they say, iron sharpens iron, and I really felt like, my first roommate, Jessie, she was amazing. And
was this an undergrad or
this was in med school? I just felt like, God put really amazing people there for me. And, undergrad, I almost was remiss. I went to State University of New York in Binghamton. Wonderful friends that actually I went to Paris for the first time in my life with my good girlfriend, my old roommate.
Good.
Ended up living in Paris from the time we graduated from college, and she translates French for the French businessmen and translate English for vice versa. And just let me tell you, these are friendships that have lasted my entire life, and they have been very supportive and encouraging. And my good girlfriend Dawn, she loved me even when I didn't communicate, because when you're doing med school, you're not doing all the Facebooking, you're not talking and calling people all the time. Your nose is in the books. And she was okay with not hearing from me. A lot of friends have a hard time with that. They're like,
of course,
I haven't heard from you, forget it, and they go their own way.
But
I love her for that. I love her for believing in me and supporting me and being okay when she didn't hear from me.
Right. And so you went to medical school, and that was 8 years?
Yes.
And
medical school was 4 years. So undergrad was 4, and then medical school 4.
Right. Mm-hmm. So when you were in medical school, what was it like being a little teeny petite African-American female wanting to do this?
Okay.
I want to know the good stuff, but what were some of the challenges?
Sure. I will honestly say I went to school, Wake Forest University Medical School, and we had an amazing mentor. She was one of the deans, and I will tell you, she was mama for us. And she made sure she kept us on the straight and narrow. And I would say wherever you're looking, you want someone who is going to look out for you and kind of even make sure the relationships are positive. Because even with dating, she would be all in our business.
Right.
And, she would come over and be like, you need to let that go.
Right.
Okay? It's interfering with your school. And, I don't know if we get that a lot, people always minding their business, but sometimes you do have to intervene. It needs to be a village, and the village was worth it.
Did you feel any racist attitudes? Wake Forest,
sure.
Not that Wake Forest is the only one.
Sure.
How tough was it?
Sure. I'll be absolutely honest. When I was in the confines of the medical school, I did not feel it that much. I really didn't. There's always a little sexism. It is a good old boys club anywhere. This is medicine. But I would say within the academic arena, I did not feel it, or I did not allow myself to feel it. Sometimes it's a choice. You can always take anything that happens and allow it to stress you and spend a whole lot of time wondering, I wonder what that person meant. Yeah. But I will tell you, it's important for us to not dwell on those things. Not that you ignore somebody spitting in your face. Obviously, there's some things that you need to confront, but don't look for it, because it's additional stress that you don't need.
That's good, Karen. That's good.
And sometimes you will see like they're looking at the boys, or they're looking for someone that is not of color to answer the question. And if you know your answer, you speak up. And
I'm sure you did.
Yes. But I think that's important too, for you not to have people put ceilings, limits, and especially when I was growing up, I was never told that people were thinking less of me.
Good.
And I think that was important. You want to prepare your children, but you have to also be careful with that.
Exactly. So has God always been in your life?
Yes, my mom was a very, very strong Christian, Pentecostal, and wore dresses, didn't wear pants.
Of course.
I couldn't wear earrings until I went to college, and that was the first thing I did. My first day on campus, I was like,
I'm gonna wear some earrings.
No, I'm serious. I couldn't even watch movies. Okay.
I love it.
I did sneak out though, but it's okay. We're good now. Not encouraging sneaking out, but it was very strict. Very strict. Academics was extremely important, and we didn't get lost in the sports. I think, to be honest, sometimes we lose our priorities, and we place a lot of emphasis that sports is our only way out and the only way to success. And I think it's important to focus on that piece of paper and your education, because people cannot take that away from you. You can have injuries with sports, but as long as you keep your sound mind, I think that's important.
And I want to bring it back real quickly to God, only because I remember that I had an outpatient surgery, and you were, and it was early, and you came in to check on me, and you said everything's good, and I said, Karen, will you pray over me? And you said, absolutely. And you pulled the curtain, and you grabbed my hand, and you didn't whisper. You prayed out loud, and it was just, and I don't know that I've ever told you that, but I just remember it, and it was so wonderful. So that's why I know that God is so much in your life, and He was so with you while you were in medical school. Right. So when you graduated, did you come to Richmond then?
Yes, but on that same note, and this is one of the other reasons why I know that God was a part of this, because one, I didn't like blood, as I told you, and two, I felt like my couple of rotations, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought peds, and when you're doing pediatrics, you take care of sick kids, and I was like, oh, I don't want to do sick kids. I love them happy and what have you. So I was kind of a little disillusioned there. So the pediatrics, but then I loved orthopedics, and I love neurology, because my people got better. That's not always the same in neuro, but I loved everything, and I was very excited. And then it just turned out that obstetrics was my last rotation, and I felt like, wow, I get the joy of surgery, I get the joy of medicine, I take care of strong women, and I get my babies. I was like, this is everything wrapped up in one.
Yeah.
I fell in love with it, but I did pass out my first C-section.
Alrighty then.
Yes, and my friends were like, "Oh, you're doing medicine, okay?" But that's why when God is in it, there is no way.
Absolutely.
Right? So yes, and we pray over this decision on where you're going to go and be a resident, because after your 8 years, the 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of med school, then your residency to just depending on what you decide upon. And I had 2 New York schools, but the truth is New York would have been a little distracting for me, honest, and God knew. And then my really third favorite was Richmond, because I thought Richmond was like, it's a big city, but not crazy big city. And I would be able to focus. And so God put me here, and it was wonderful from day one. I mean, very supportive, and I felt like I learned so much. And I have a lot of patients that I met when I started residency, and they have followed me in Richmond. And it's deep.
Because I know that there have been times when I've recommended friends of mine, and you were full. You couldn't accept another patient.
Right.
So you have always been in these last, how many, 20?
Yes.
20 years. It's been, everybody knows Dr. Karen Jefferson. Everybody talks about Karen Jefferson. And I especially remember when you delivered Chelsea. And it's so interesting to watch you, Karen, because you can come in the room and you're just smiling and having the best time. But when you were examining Camille, we were waiting on Chelsea, there's another, you go into another space.
Right.
What is that about?
Right. Yeah, it is definitely another space. So my job is to make you comfortable and make you excited, and not led on to all the 10 million things that I'm worried about. What if this, what if that, her blood pressure, heart rate, baby's heart rate, all of this stuff. But I'm thinking about that.
We had to turn
Yes,
Chelsea
we had to turn her
around.
head, yes.
We had to turn, I don't even know you remember that.
Yes,
it was 19 years ago.
absolutely.
But we had to turn her around. And I just saw you were so intense. And I just knew that everything was going to be fine.
But you focus on, you want this to be an excellent outcome. You're like, this baby deserves the best opportunity ever.
Are you ever fearful? Are you fearful?
Absolutely.
When you're really?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there's always a time where you're like, should I section now? Do I allow her the opportunity to continue trying? But then there's that dance, like, should we have gone and then baby's safe? Yes, you have a section, but baby's fine. Or do we continue on and then, the baby's not doing as well as we'd like? And so I really, and I know that sounds crazy to some, but that's God.
Yeah.
I mean, I would tell you, there was one time when we were on call, and it was 2 a.m, and we got called for a patient that had been unreferred. That means that they did not have a doctor. And she was at term, and she was huffing and puffing. And this is 2 a.m, and she is crowning. Okay, so the baby's head is coming. The nurses are amazing at St. Mary's. Love them.
Yes.
I mean, they're so nurturing, and they pray every morning for the patients.
Yes, they do.
And it is a covering. Absolutely. And I've never, definitely that's where I needed to be. They are family. I mean, they were with me through my mother's death and through illness. I mean, family. So I was meant to be there. Anyway, so here we are, and I'm doing an ultrasound, right? And why are you doing an ultrasound? This baby's about to deliver, but I've never seen you before. I don't know your story, and only God, 2 a.m. I saw 2 heads. And I was like, well, maybe it's my contacts. They're dry, And then there were 3 heads, triplets. She was having triplets, no prenatal care. So we had then to rush her to the C-section room
Yes,
and do a section.
yes.
And those 3 babies were amazingly healthy.
Oh.
And that's not to advocate
That's right.
not having
That's
prenatal
right.
care.
That's right.
But
That's
God
miracle.
was
That
God
was a
was
miracle.
so good. It was amazing. And then my good friend Dr. Butner, I met her with someone delivering twins, and we were delivering. We were running on the gurney because one head was coming, and we had to do a section because the second one was breech. And here it is, a doctor from another practice. And that's how Dr. Butner and I met, and that's when I decided to do Virginia Women's Center.
Okay, good. I
So
love it.
everything happens
I
for a
love it.
reason.
Everything, and you just have to listen.
Yes.
You just have to listen. So, in this last 20 years, where again there have been times when you could not take another patient because you were just that busy. How did that impact your family life? You with 2 children and a husband. You with a husband and 2 children.
Yes.
Tell me. I want our viewers to
Yes,
understand
yes.
the commitment. You know, you want everything comes with a price.
Yes.
You know, so.
Well, I will tell you, there were many days and nights that I wanted to know, does this now come with a handbook? You know, like, how do professional women do this? And I missed having a mentor for that. I will tell you, in Jamaica, oftentimes you grow up with kind of a nanny. And the nanny, and I had that when I was in Jamaica. I relocated when I was in kindergarten. And then we went back to Jamaica for a stint, and then we came back permanently when I was in 3rd grade. And I will tell you, I had my nanny. My mom was a nurse in Jamaica, and my nanny was like my mom, right? My second mom. And so I'll be honest, I had visions. I would go to sleep like, did I just have a nanny to help me with my baby? So when I'm not here, I know that there's someone, you know, taking care of them. But my husband obviously is wonderful, and he did not really care for that whole nanny idea and someone living in the home with us. And so he took excellent care of it. It was a lot.
Excellent.
It was a lot. It was a lot, but balancing, you know, cooking dinner and, you know, balancing just not, you know, being at home and not knowing when someone was going to go into labor. It's tricky. I mean, you definitely have to be one that's flexible. I happen to always kind of.
Can you wake up?
Yes.
Can you wake up?
Yes.
From a deep
I mean,
sleep?
I would say it's like a little stunning initially,
Yeah.
but once you, I mean, it's boom, you're there. It's automatic, and these endorphins just go, and it's like someone gave you a shot of Starbucks, and you're ready to go. And I mean, it's such an amazing event, and you feel honored to be there at such a memorable moment in people's lives.
I agree.
It just it takes away whatever little sleep issue that you
Yeah.
had. So love it. And
So watching the kids grow up,
Yes.
you know, were there challenges?
sure.
Just give me an example.
Sure. So, you know,
Because
and
your husband was doing all the
and
cooking.
he did a phenomenal job. He didn't do all the cooking. I did still.
Now, how did
probably
you
most
do that?
of it.
Did you do it on Sunday, or did you? How did you?
So-
Did you come home with regular hours? I don't know any.
So good
anything.
question. So we would take a call probably like once or twice a week, depending
Okay.
on how hectic things were, and then usually one weekend a month. And so your partners would cover otherwise. What would happen when we were at St. Mary's is that we'd try and deliver our patients, and so sometimes you would get into trouble because you weren't planning to stay, but your patients crowding.
Yeah, because Chelsea was like 1 in the morning. I do know that. Yeah.
Yes. Or just about ready, and so that was really hard to leave then, and so I would stay. And so it was difficult for the hubby, okay, and I love you, hubby, and I thank you very much because I know it was a sacrifice.
No question.
Because I say I'm coming. I say I'm coming, but I don't know when the baby's coming. And we think it's half an hour, and the baby says, no, I'm going to take an hour, and then I need a C-section. So the half an hour turns into 2 hours, and so that's tricky.
Yes.
And so it's tricky for hubby, it's tricky for the children who are like thinking, mommy's coming home any second. So that part, I thank them for being merciful to me and understanding and really forgiving me for not being able to be there, Johnny, on the spot.
Right.
But what I was very intentional about was the time that I was not at work, it was all about them. It was all about them and my family. I did not go out a lot. I did not do a lot of the drug rep meetings and conferences, and I just didn't do that. It was like work or my family.
Right.
And that was important to me, and that was my focus.
That's good. That's good. I love it. I love it. So we're here now at 20 years, and I know that you are very, very interested in women's health,
Yes.
in us taking
Yes.
care of ourselves,
Yes.
of us being more cognizant.
Absolutely.
It's funny because when the guys were setting up the cameras,
Okay.
they were asking, I was telling them that you were coming, and they asked, wow, somebody had seen a 102-year-old black woman.
Wow.
And I said, my great-grandmother lived to be 103.
Wow.
And one of the guys asked me, well, what's the lifespan for black men? I said, 4 years old. And they
Oh, that's
and they looked
funny.
at me. They looked at
That's
me. But
funny.
I said, but the problem is that you guys don't go to the doctor. And so when you do go, you know, it's a lot of times it's too late.
Yeah.
So what do you want to talk about? What do you want to share with the viewers on what we, particularly women,
Yes.
need to be aware of?
Right, right. So thank you for asking that, because I think if you come with this whole health awareness and wellness from the standpoint that I'm taking care of the temple, and
That's good.
yes,
That's so good.
how would I take care of the physical temple? I would do maintenance. I would watch what I put in the temple. I would make sure that I am caring for what we hear in the temple, what we say, what we speak. All of that's important. And I think some of the maintenance has to be what I'm eating, that exercise portion, taking care of the spirit, you know, really watching over your mind, body, and soul. And I used to laugh at the yoga because Rita knows sitting still for me is like, are you kidding me? Like, really, pour ashes on my head. Don't make me sit still. And so I had tried yoga at some medical conferences, and to sit there and do this thing was really, I was like, that's not going to happen, okay? But now I'm understanding and using yoga like for physical exercise and really stretching and really putting you in a better place, a place where you're able to like release that stress, because stress causes so much.
Talk about that.
Stress.
I mean, because everybody says I'm stressed, which they need to stop saying because that just makes you more
Absolutely.
stressed. But talk about what it does.
Right.
What does stress do
Right.
to the nerve endings?
Well, I tell you, stress really contributes to a lot of disorders out there. It really affects hypertension. It can contribute to diabetes. It can contribute to sleep apnea. It can really release these very harmful chemicals in our body that can actually cause joint pain, hip pain. I mean, the gamut is really endless. I mean,
So stress is actually something.
absolutely.
That's
Stress.
important. I mean, it's not just a word.
Absolutely.
It is something that impacts us.
Yes.
Yes.
So stress can even cause preterm labor.
Yes.
Stress can cause preterm labor, and just having this weight issue, because we don't realize that our fat cells, it's an actual organ. And so those fat cells are releasing these chemicals as well that are very harmful, and that can cause the knee pain, the hip pain, the joint pain. It can cause problems with our heart,
Right.
problems with our liver,
Right,
kidney,
right,
hypertension,
right.
diabetes, sleep apnea, same story. And so some of these
And
can be
it's-
a little preventable.
And I want to talk about that. I want to talk about preventable, but I also want to understand that we typically find it a higher rate in African American women.
Yes.
For so many reasons.
Right.
You know, I mean, sons leaving the house
Yes.
can cause stress.
Yes.
I mean, I think that's important for everybody
Yes.
who's
Yes.
listening to understand. You have a son.
Absolutely.
And for him to, and I have a daughter.
Right.
I mean, I have daughters. I mean, but the children leaving, will they come back safe?
Right.
Will they come back safe?
Absolutely.
That is an African American mama's problem. You know.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
how what can we do to help lower that stress?
right.
Lower that
Well,
stress.
I will tell you, you know, if any of my patients are listening, we talk about our children all the time. And they know that, I stress about my babies. I do. And sometimes that stress is overwhelming, and I definitely feel, wow, can I get up this morning? Can I handle any more? And I will tell you, God has been helping, honestly, like really like, okay, God, please take this. Doing the exercise, I've gotten now into Zumba, and really trying to get exercise, have it as more of a ritual. Because before, it was like if I have time, and I will tell you, as mothers, as women in general, we push ourselves to the back burner.
Always.
And we say,
Always.
I know that exercise is important, and I'm going to get to that, but I got to do this first, and I've got to do that first. And
Because this is for them, and the exercise is just for me.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to feel guilty or look selfish.
That's it. That's it. That's it. Absolutely. And we get to that martyr period where we're like, I don't have time for that because I got to take care of my mama, my daddy, my kids, my house, my hubby, all of this, right? And we feel like we're putting ourselves last. It's helping them. But one of my analogies is if you're taking the plane, they tell you, put the oxygen mask on yourself first. And then
you
help
to be
someone
able to
else.
help somebody
Absolutely.
else. That's right.
And
That's
with
good.
that analogy, most people understand and they hear me. Right?
That's good.
So now you just have to prioritize and make that happen. And most people, they won't listen to me too much because they're like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She never had a struggle. Well, I will correct that because, as I told you, my mom was a nurse and she would work night shift. And my dad, who I love dearly, he would be the one in charge of meals. And McDonald's served a wonderful purpose. And I love the McDonald's apple pies and the French fries. And yes, I was 150 pounds at 9 years old.
Didn't know that.
That's chubby.
Wow.
That's kind of beyond chubby. That's obese.
Yes.
Obese.
Yeah.
So I was there. And I had a lot of people, you're so cute and fat. And that's an island thing, going back to the island. Like, you're so cute and fat. And I'm like, I really don't like that. I don't even know who you are.
Don't touch me.
Right. But okay, I'm going to smile. But I really don't like you now.
I hear you.
But then puberty came. Thank God for puberty. And I had the growth spurt and lost that weight. And I praise God for that. But I will tell you, I'm kind of like George Jefferson with that. Okay? Because George Jefferson was always worried about being poor again after they moved on up to the east side.
Right.
And so I'm very aware if I am not watching these carbs,
That's right.
those crooked carbs, I could get into trouble.
Yeah.
So I actually have the privilege of having been there. Like some people were always skinny their whole life and never had to struggle. And for some, they're like, what is this? Where did that come from?
Yeah.
And they don't really know what to do with it. And I'm very aware, hey, you know what? That cake was really good, but there's a plus here. I got a minus somewhere.
Right. That's right. So we know that we need to exercise. And I don't care what we call it. I mean, I've said a gazillion times, if you can walk 15 minutes that way
Yes.
and then come back, that's 30 minutes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so if you don't like the word exercise, you don't like the connotation,
Right.
figure out something else. But we were built to move.
Yes.
We were built to move.
Yes.
So we know that exercise helps with stress.
Yes.
And so that, and the weight causes all kinds of other problems. And
Yes.
so it's so amazing to me when I hear people say, how did I get this? How did I get this? We're not paying attention
Right.
to the things
It's very
that
sneaky,
we
though.
are doing
Yes, yes.
to our bodies. And so, what else? What else?
I will tell you, one of the things that has caused me to kind of make some different decisions with my practice has been the increased mortality and morbidity of African American women during their pregnancies. It is a little dangerous for us, and some of that comes from the increased stressors that can contribute to preterm labor and some of the illnesses, but also our weight. And so usually we start with a higher body mass index, and that is just going to predispose us to hypertension, diabetes, preeclampsia, and some very serious complications in pregnancy. I had told Rita before, one of the things that made me really have this new passion for, we call it obesity medicine, which is really not a kind name, but that's the medicine that we had to get board certified under, was this show, This Is Us. And in that show was one of the characters who struggled with her weight, and she had gone to her infertility specialist, and the infertility specialist was really just saying, you know what, there are going to be a lot of risk factors with this, and
Because she's really large.
really obese.
Yeah.
And I felt it from the patient's side, and I kind of had a little anger with the doctor. But honestly, I have been that doctor many times because I'm fearful for you. I know what the risk factors are with the weight. And if you're, over a BMI of 40 and, 400 pounds, it is serious for both you and the baby. And you worry about both of you not making it.
Is it serious at 300?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's serious. And a lot of it has to do with really how fit am I?
Yes.
So sometimes
I understand.
the body mass index doesn't really tell that some of this body mass is from my muscles. So obviously if you have a higher muscle mass, that's going to be better than someone who doesn't exercise. So a lot of times we all kind of maybe do phentermine or different ways to lose weight, and we kind of feel like we can just bypass the exercise, but the exercise is still extremely important because that is part of the health. That is part of how your body responds.
And we're mind, body, spirit. So just like we feed our body, and my pastor says, whatever you put in your mouth sends a message to some part of your body. It's that whatever it is sends a message. So we have to feed our bodies, and we have to do a good job of that. We have to feed our minds, and you're exactly right. With the music that we hear from the friends that we have, from TV, from movies.
Absolutely.
So we have to be cognizant of what's coming in.
The Bible talks about guarding your heart and guarding your spirit.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And do you not know that you are the temple?
Yes.
And so I think if we approach it that way, it really will be very different. You won't feel like it's a burden. It's a whole list of yeses and nos. You'll feel like, wow, this is nourishing my body and my soul.
And we just need to remember that, because when I was told that they found breast cancer, it was malignant, I went home and sat in the dark, and I thought, I probably contributed to this in some way, because I used to drink, sodas. I was eating processed food. I was not taking care of me. I really wasn't. And I knew that I could make it through this, and I also knew coming out on the other side that I was going to take much better care of myself, which is what we're supposed to be doing anyway. Sometimes it's like, hello.
I know.
So we have to feed the mind, we have to feed the body, and we have to feed the spirit. We have to feed the spirit. And so having said that, I want you just to share any other tips or recommendations that you have for our viewers.
Well, I think first of all, I feel like I have been very, very blessed to have a wonderful family, extended family, and I had wanted to have the helper. But my mother and father were incredible, and my in-laws were incredible. They would help us, chauffeur the kids back and forth to school and to the different events. You have to definitely circle yourself, if it's not family, with really good friends. But that village, I thank God for my village, and that's huge. One. Second of all, you really have to surround yourself also with good people, and make sure that where you're working, because you spend so much time with your job and the people at your work. I mean, I really love the people that I work with. The transitions are tricky for me. I'm kind of like an old lady in that respect. Like I love that comfort, and I know I need to embrace change, and I'm working on that. But really having supportive people around you, being selective with your friends, important. Like, we should edify each other. And we had talked about Miss Jamaica World.
Yes.
Woo, go Miss Jamaica. And we talked about Miss Nigeria.
Yes.
And we talked about how Miss Nigeria confused everyone. We didn't know who won. She was just genuinely happy for her. And this is a beauty competition. And she was genuinely happy. And I thought, wow, what a lesson for all of us. If we could be genuinely happy for one another and find ways in which we can uplift each other and edify, I think the world would be a much better place with that.
I do too, and I think that I hear people talk periodically about women not supporting women, and I'm sure there is some of that, but I dare say that there is more support.
Absolutely.
I really do. I am ready to differ with anybody who says no, women keep bringing anybody, and so I need if there is anybody out there who tends to do that, step back. Make sure you're not contributing.
Absolutely.
Because we attract what we're giving out.
Yes.
And so the people that I have, and you, like I said, you've been in my life 20 years, and it's always been good. It's just, always been good. And so it is important for us to love ourselves.
Absolutely.
And be okay with being by ourselves, that then
yes.
other people then want to hang out with us, because it looks like we're having such a great time by ourselves. I swear.
Now, I will tell you, on that same line, I will give some of the credit for the way I grew up. And I didn't get a lot of teaching on the Civil War, and I didn't get slavery beat over my head. And I didn't grow up thinking I was a slave. And I feel like some of the way that young people are taught, especially in certain areas in the country, we're taught so much about the Civil War and our history of slavery that sometimes we are still in bondage. And just like, Bob Marley said, we have to free ourselves from mental slavery, because none other can free our minds. And so how we're going to free ourselves from educating ourselves about our history. We need to know about Imhotep. We need to know about Timbuktu, the first university. We need to know that we have a rich Nubian history. And when we have that knowledge, then we don't just have fake pride. We have pride based on, I come from kings and queens. I'm going to walk like I come from kings and queens, not like I have to pretend.
And that's what I say about anybody who is African American in this country, because it is our ancestors who made it through the Middle Passage. The ones who didn't have they don't have, they didn't survive. And so all of us can go back to that Middle Passage, and that's incredibly powerful. I do like here in Richmond, and I'm sure all over, we do not refer to former slaves as slaves. We say that they were enslaved, which is a whole different connotation. Slaves is a chosen. These people were not, they didn't choose. So they were enslaved, and that's freedom right there.
So, and I think something to really, if we're really trying to get rid of some of the divide in Richmond, we need to bring Hamilton to our classrooms.
Okay. The play.
Yes. And when I say the play, I mean it's expensive play, I understand that. But the mixtape is on YouTube, right? You're doing American history. Hey, we're going to go ahead and listen to this song. Listen to it tonight, and that'll be relevant for you tomorrow. That's easy. It's free, okay? And what that provides, I remember when I was studying history, I'm a science buff. I'm just like Johnny-come-lately with this history stuff now. I always loved biology, loved science, and that's where my mind was. History was all numbers, and I didn't like that. I didn't want to sit and memorize numbers. I just didn't have a place to hook it. I didn't like it. Now that I've matured, I find that history is really important, not just so that you don't repeat errors, but you can also learn from it and
grow.
And grow. And things like, Sojourner Truth, or, any of these, plays, history things that we have out and available. Harriet Tubman. What a wonderful movie Harriet Tubman was. I mean, I think people are afraid sometimes because they don't want, like, oh goodness, I don't want this depressing history. No.
And
it shows her strength.
It shows exactly what I said. I felt so empowered after leaving her, because she said, give me freedom or I will die.
Absolutely.
And that was it. There was no gray area. And if more of us, certainly not in that connotation, but if more of us were strong and committed to our purpose.
Absolutely. Well said.
Oh, it's so good. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm honored.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. I appreciate you being here.
Yes.
Give me one more minute.
Yes.
Because this is my Just for Today book. Remember, folks, I talk about Just for Today, and it's hashtag Just for Today. And you can get it on Amazon.com, or you can contact me. My email is below. You can contact me, and I will send you a hard copy. What it is 365 actions to fuel your daily rhythm. There's something for every day. And the one that I chose for today is hashtag Just for Today. Remember that though tomorrow is not here, today is.
Yeah.
Today is all we've got. Enjoy it. Thank you again,
Thank you,
Dr.
Rita.
Karen Jefferson, for being here. Thank you all for hanging in there with us. We will see you next time. I am Rita, speaking to your spirit.